made by my mother. And it just sparked my passion that has never stopped, and I will do this until my very last breath. So with that being said, this is where my story begins. It begins in the countryside of Naples, about 35 miles from Napoli. And this is actually a picture that I clicked last year when I went home to visit my family that is still there. We have not just acres of land, but there's miles of land, and it's wonderful and beautiful, and I go there every year at least once, and then I host my trip for travelers that want to really experience the Italian lifestyle, not to go to big cities and eat at restaurants, but really see what it's like. But visiting here keeps me rooted very firmly in both cultures. And it also gives me a bit of a daily identity crisis. You know, where do I really belong? What am I really taking from each society? So about 10 days ago, I was in New York City in Manhattan, and I went, of course, to Ellis Island. Many Italians came through Ellis Island. Many came through other parts of the United States, Boston and New Orleans. But this on the left is what they first saw. And I stood there on the ship that takes you around the Statue of Liberty, and I kind of relived again what it must have felt like to see something like this and to start a new life. And then I clicked this on the right-hand side. It was part of a poster that was hanging in St. Patrick's Cathedral, showing the number of Italian immigrants that came through, talking about the number of immigrants, period, that came through Ellis Island. And I circled Italy because there was the biggest wave of immigration that came to New York from Italy. Between the years of 1901 and 1910, 802,000 Italian immigrants came through. And then it dropped off dramatically between 1911 and 1920, and then after 1925 it really dropped off. But this is what they saw. They came with their hopes, of course, their dreams. We all know this. We have it. We can think about it in our own families. They were young, they were hungry, and they were healthy, even though they were very poor. So if we go to the next slide, and we fast forward 100 years or so, I don't know if you can see this very well from the back, but they left a country that is the healthiest nation on earth today, and has been for many, many decades. Even people in Italy don't realize that they live in the healthiest nation on earth. I've given presentations to people from Italy, and they're like, wow, we didn't know that. We just live our lives. But it's just so natural. And they exchanged it for a country that is number 35, the United States. We have the most resources, we spend the most money, we have the most hospitals, we have all of this health care, and we have a health score of 73 on the Bloomberg scale and World Health Organization research. This was just released for 2019. Last year, Italy was number 1. This year, it's tied with Spain for number 1 with a health score of 91.6. So everything I do as a nutritionist really combines and folds in with our culture because we have the answer. And being an Italian American living in the United States and eating the standard American diet is not the answer. So if we take a look at, I think, the statistics, we can see that from, again, 1900, fast forward 116 years, that we've exchanged infectious diseases for chronic illnesses. The main cause of death in the year 1900 was tuberculosis. And then it was pneumonia, and then diarrhea, and heart disease was number 4, and 8% of people in the United States at that time had heart disease and were dying from heart disease. What happened in 1900 or early 1900s? Penicillin was discovered. And so we eradicated these infectious diseases, but we exchanged it for chronic disease, where today the number 1 cause of death in the United States is heart disease. And this is not a genetic problem. 5 of the 10 diseases that we're dying from today are foodborne. It's proven. You know, genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. So we can't be saying that's just my genes and my father had it and I'm going to get it. So, and then is the cancer. So heart disease, many cancers, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, and diabetes, which we have an epidemic of today, are all very closely related to diet. So what I'm trying to do is infuse what we know and the answer that we have in our culture in Italy and how people are living in Italy and trying to combine some of that in the United States. Now my first book was Real Food for Healthy People. And it's on Amazon. I was trying to get the rating of it right. I couldn't pull it up on my phone, but it was number 45 out of 300,000 books. So for self-publishing, I've lived through the terror of it. I can help if anyone wants to talk to me about that. But my next book is going to have a completely different approach, and it's related to this. Because heart disease and the treatment of heart disease needs to start 50 years before it happens. You know, we can't have obese mothers drinking soda and having sick children, babies, that end up with heart disease. It's never too late to fix the diet. It's never too late. But if we can fix this, when a mother is pregnant and a child is small, and again, in my title, it's a little bit of the lost art of feeding children. Because when you go to Italy, there are no children's menus. You know, they had the onslaught of fast foods, and there's now a big problem. People don't want that. People in Italy are kind of food snobs. They know what GMO is. They know what good olive oil is. They're not eating the stuff we're eating. You don't go into a restaurant in Italy anywhere and say, I'll have an Italian hot beef. Or I'll have Alfredo, chicken Alfredo, or chicken Vesuvia. That doesn't even exist there. So the more we can get back to real food and still love these things, but not as a constant diet. So this is the mock-up of the book that'll probably be ready for publication in January. I do have a traditional publisher that's interested in it, so we'll see if it goes traditional. If not, I know how to do it, and I know how to get it on Amazon. But it's called Real Food for Infants and Toddlers. Let's start out right with the kids. Because when they're 1 year old and they get a smash cake put in front of them at their first birthday and they're eating sugar, it's almost, they're addicted already. So let's start out right. And this book, and you can't really see it on the slide, I don't think, but I'm taking a different approach. I'm collaborating with the head of pediatrics at Northwestern Hospital, or was. Now she's Professor Emeritus. Her name is Dr. Barbara Deal, and she has dealt with this for 30 years, of what's happened to our children. Myself, from a nutritional aspect, and then these are recipes from an Italian nonna. So this is from a photo shoot that we did in November in Providence, Rhode Island. She's one of my best friends, and she's from Italy, and she is very much still in tune, although she's living here and has grandchildren, getting the kids started out right. And I have a couple slides to show you how they do that. But we can go back. But these little sample things that you see on the front cover are actually food samples. That her and her daughters have this down, where they have a baby bullet. On Sunday, they get the food ready for the children, and they keep them in the refrigerator in these little containers, and they bring them to daycare or wherever they're going, and they're never, never going through a drive-through. Their kids are never having fast foods. And what happens when you do this is the child develops the taste for the right foods. And this is so important after they're done nursing, 6 months to a year, or 6 months to 18 months. If they are tasting these foods and feeling them and touching them and connected with them, they will have a different approach to how they eat. So now we can go to the next slide. These are just some photos. Some were taken in Italy, some were taken in the US, of her grandchildren. On the left there is Lorenzo, and they're getting him, they're boosting him up into the tree. These are lemons. This is limoni. Feel it, touch it. The little boy in the middle, Nico, is actually flowering the eggplant, for the nonna to fix. but he's feeling it, he's touching it, then he's going to taste it. And then over on the right, he's helping his nonna and his mother to crack hazelnuts, putting them in a bucket. And then they're going to prepare them. And he will be part of that preparation. And we've so lost that here. And I have so many clients that come to me and they say, you know, my 5-year-old just won't even eat a vegetable. Maybe some fruit. They hate broccoli. They won't eat it. And it's because they don't get this kind of start. And this is easy enough for us to do. And even if we are grandparents, we can start this tradition. It's another part of the patchwork of the quilt of our culture that we can bring back. The next slide has a couple more pictures. This is DeNicolo. Put him on a stool. He's standing on a little stool by the sink. He's washing the peppers that were just picked from the Nona's garden. He's washing the lettuce. He doesn't look too happy about it, but he's involved. And he has a very different, if you saw these children and you saw the way they eat, it's completely different from the standard American children today. And so, again, I hope to make an impact with the book, and I hope to take it with all different, from all different perspectives, a nutritional perspective, the pediatrician and the nonna. I must have a lot of, oh good, I'm doing well. Okay, so then I just have one last slide. If you are interested in an expanded topic on this, on Wednesday I'll be doing a talk on La Dolce Vita of Italy, living well, living fit, living long, and actually expanding this to adults and what we can do. However, I was told I had to send the slides early because Anna was she's very dedicated and prompt. But I was told on Thursday night that this could be already filled. It's free and open to the public, but we had room for 100 people, and there's 125 right now that, as of last week, that were registered. So that's great. I'm just happy because there are people that are interested, because this whole approach is going to be getting back to living the good life as they do in Italy. So I made it in time. I thank you for your interest.
Thank you.